Welcome to Hardcover Hooligans. My name is Danylo. Mac, I have a question for you.
What is it, Danylo?
Mac, would you drive metal spikes through your eyeballs if they let you sniff out orphan children?
Yeah, I think I would. I think that looks bad. It's probably one of my favorite parts of this bit is how cool that guy looked, and I was really sad he's not in the rest of the chapter, but I'm sure they will come back at some point. But he was fucking badass.
So yeah, Mac, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is McIntyre Godwin, and I read Mistborn this week, past 2 weeks, I guess, the first part of it. And I'm looking forward to talking about it, because I got a lot to say.
Ooh, I'm excited. I also read Mistborn, the first part of it, but I have read it before, and I've in fact read the whole trilogy before, so I will sort of be taking the lead on this discussion with Mac as we go through the story, talk about it, and have extremely strong opinions.
And you, sorry to interrupt, you have not read or not finished the second trilogy?
No, I haven't finished Era 2.
All right.
There's supposed to be Era 3, which is supposed to be very cool. I don't know if you know, like, the conceit behind all the eras.
No. As far as... You probably can't answer this for me, but if this book does not end with the end of the final empire, I'm going to lose my mind that I have to read 2 more books to figure out what happens. I'm going to be so mad.
I mean, it is a trilogy, so...
I know, but I really think that the first book is going to be some huge reveal that maybe they've been wrong the whole time. That's my call shot, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, I think at the end, we'll do predictions at the end.
Yeah.
So, Mac, how are you reading this book? Since we are the hardcover hooligans, we should talk about the version of the book we're reading and how we're reading it.
We are the hardcover hooligans. I own 2 hardcover books. Both of them are separate editions of The Lord of the Rings. I read this book on an e-reader. Not going to say which kind unless we get sponsored. For right now, that's under wraps. But I read it mostly on an e-reader. I had some time off for holidays and stuff recently, but when I was back to work, I finished this section via audiobook.
Oh.
And I gotta tell you, man, that guy he put his whole penis into that recording, man. I mean, he is giving it his all. He does all the... Never once was I confused on who is speaking, even when the sentence is not preceded by, like, whoever said, you know? I was never confused, and I actually enjoyed the book a lot more listening to him read it. But it also had its own share of weird little issues that, I don't know, I thought was strange. But I like the audiobook a lot. I don't know if that's a popular opinion, but...
I think that's fairly... I get the sense that a lot of people like the audiobooks. I've only done the audiobooks of, like, some of the Mistborn Era 2 ones. I haven't done the original Mistborn trilogy and the Stormlight Archive audiobooks, but I know people love them. And it's the same guy doing all of them, and I think he does a very good job.
He does do a very good job. I got a little nervous when the name Sazed came up. I was like, what kind of voice are we doing for this guy? But it was not... It was not horribly offensive like I was nervous it would be. None of them are, actually, which I was pretty surprised at. But these books are popular for a reason, so I can't imagine they hired some maniac to do the voiceover. So,
yeah, we're not going to do a offensive Asian accent for Sazed.
Yeah.
Like, I was going to talk about this later, but my big theory about one of the reasons Brandon Sanderson is so popular is because either he consciously writes for audiobook, or his style is just so, like, clear and readable that it works particularly well on audiobook, where, like, other fantasy books don't. That's my conspiracy theory.
I don't think I definitely agree, because there's something about reading this book, and we'll talk about it, that sometimes I wanted to jump off the roof, but listening to somebody read it, I thought fit it better, because I think this book is for a younger demographic, and if not a younger demographic, then like a less well-read genre fiction demographic. So I think that simplicity works really well when it's like somebody, because I don't know, I just imagine, I don't know, we'll talk about it. I have a lot of feelings about the way this book is written, but I think you're right. I think it is written for audiobook. And, frankly, I'm kind of... He's making a movie about this, or he's writing a script for a
I think
movie
so.
about this?
They've been talking about it for a while, from what I can tell.
I think that would be fucking cool. Mm-hmm. I think that would be badass.
Well, let's get into the details.
Yeah.
So we read Mistborn, The Final Empire, the prologue and part 1, which is like the first quarter of the book, maybe third of the book. And this novel, written by Brandon Sanderson, was published in 2006 by Tor. And this is Sanderson's second published novel.
Oh, I thought it was his first. What's the first one?
There's a novel called Elantris, which is still like Cosmere.
I thought
I've heard it's okay.
That was this the whole time. Because people speak about these books in such like a all encompassing way. I just sort of figured Elantris was another way they spoke about this, because I've been avoiding all spoilers. So when I have a question, I have not looked up the answer to that question. I've just assumed wrongly in my head that it's part of this book, because of my searching, on Reddit, because I'm part of a lot of like book subreddits or whatever. Mm-hmm. These Brandon Sanderson ones have started to come up, and man, have I never been more confused about what the hell people are talking about. They're just like names and memes I don't get. It is, I don't know. I think it's pretty awesome. But
I'm on the meme pages. It's hard to. One of the reasons to read all of them is to avoid spoilers. That is like a big motivator. Elantris is the first one, and takes place on a completely different planet.
Okay, so it takes place in quite literally the same universe. They're just on different planets. That's cool as hell.
Yes. Yeah, so when there's like Cosmere, that's like the same universe. It's just like a different planet, effectively, or a planetary system.
Is the Stormlight Archive on a different planet?
Yeah, it's like in a different planetary system.
That's really cool. Do you think you'll ever do a sci-fi novel where it's like the MCU, they're going to do like Avengers and unite them all? Or is that a spoiler? Don't tell me.
I mean, I think we should just keep reading these books.
That is, okay, that's pretty cool. That might change my opinion on this book.
I mean, that is one of the things we're going to read after we're done reading the original trilogy. We'll read Mistborn, A Secret History, which is like a novella. And that sort of opens the can of worms for like all the Cosmere connection stuff. It's very cool. That's one of the main appeals of the series, why people like them so much.
I had no idea about any of that. That's awesome. Okay.
It's pretty cool. So, let's just dive into the book.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the book, there are some maps. I don't know if you got to look at the maps, if you peruse the maps. I like me a good fantasy map.
I like a good fantasy map too, but I try to not look at them right away, or else I know I'll hopelessly be flipping back and forth between the map and the book the whole time. So actually, I have not.
My opinion on the Mistborn map books is they're kind of bad and vague. So I was going to wonder if you had, and not really helpful into determining where anything is.
I'm looking at it right now. The Luthadel map looks like a big tortilla that somebody hit with a meat hammer to like tenderize meat. It's kind of confusing. But I like the final, it looks like a fantasy map, I guess. I do like how it looks like a book cover. I think that's kind of cool, but,
Yeah, and it's not, I find it's not super important. I think once you get in the later books, there's more detailed maps and stuff, but yeah, I don't know. Just thought I'd get your take on that.
And also, pre-map, I do like the dedication.
What's the dedication?
To his grandmother. It's for Beth Sanderson, who's been reading fantasy for longer than I've been alive, and fully deserves to have a grandson as loony as she is.
That's very sweet.
It is. I don't think this book is super loony, but I do think that that's a very sweet dedication.
You don't find the ska to be hilarious?
Yes, I do, but probably not for the reason that Brandon Sanderson wants me to think about. I just can't. Well, whatever.
No, I think I have the same feeling. We're going to talk about them right now. So the prologue of the book. The prologue of the book is when we first get into this world. We have Lord Tresting, who is a nobleman who owns a ska plantation somewhere in the countryside. and that's what they're called. It's called a ska plantation.
Do you think he
Yes.
he knows?
Yes.
Do people complain about this or like question this?
No. I had an insight to this, I think. Because there's a lot of stuff, especially like if you just read this first section and you're trying to like figure out how to feel about it, there just aren't a lot of indicators about how you as a reader should feel about it. And I think part of that is, a point of view decision. Like, this is just how this world is, and so the people in it are going to just react to how it is.
Yeah, it is like you wouldn't think that bugs are weird because you live around bugs.
I haven't reread like Stormlight Archive in a while, but I think especially like in this part, when I think he's trying to go for like a morally gray area thing, especially through this whole book. But I think sometimes that comes across as like morally ambivalent. Like, instead of like, let's be morally gray, let's like just put that out there and not address it, which I think it can be a negative as well. So I think that's how it's coming across. Like, I think he's going for one thing, but it's coming across as like, whatever.
Yeah. Speaking of that, this ties in directly to that. This is my big called shot. These pre-chapter italicized things is the Lord Ruler. That's my big thing.
Okay.
He's the hero of ages, and they're gonna get to him, and he's gonna be like, "You guys got me all fucked up." Or he's gonna be like imprisoned and whatever. I think that he's not a bad guy, even though Kelsier claims to have like met him and stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's him, or somebody's like puppeting him, because the way they talk about him, he does not sound very powerful. I know he's in charge, but they're like, I don't know. They're just like, he's not Mistborn. And it's like, okay, well then what are we doing? Like, you can just fly, just kill him right now. There's no reason that he's set up that he can't be killed.
I mean, maybe people have tried. Maybe they don't want to. I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
That's true. I guess we will. I hope we find out.
So, the ska plantation. Back at the ska plantation. Lord Trusting is being an evil asshole.
Yeah, he's being a comedy supervillain.
Yeah. Comedy supervillain?
Well, he's like, I don't know, he says, like, the way he talks about people is just like, God, he is hilariously evil. Like, what a perfect guy for us to see get killed first.
Truly. And so we learn about more of the world. There's a lot of ash. I
think that's cool.
Plants are brown. They like don't grow really well. Everyone's starving.
Yeah. I gotta tell you though, I think I would never name my empire the Final Empire, just in case.
Yeah, that's like, I guess you jinxed it. That's the big jinx.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's like a big dick energy move to be like, no, we're sticking around, baby. Like, this is the last one. But like, just on the off chance something goes wrong, I don't know.
Yeah, they can't do like the second Final Empire. No. Like, doesn't have the same ring to it.
No.
And so we kind of see Lord Trusting meet with an obligator, and an obligator is like a kind of, priest lawyer. It's a very religious, oligarchical, hierarchical society. Mm-hmm. And they talk about some business things. And then we go to the ska house where they're all sitting around at night because they don't want to go out when the mists come out. And we get our first introduction to Kelsier. He's got scars on his arms. He's tall and handsome and likes killing noblemen.
Yeah, man, I was into this book, and then Kelsier opened his mouth, and it was downhill from there, man. At the end of this part, when he sort of lets his guard down, I actually like him. But when he's doing jokes, oh my God, do I want to just put my e-reader through my skull, man. And I feel for these ska, man. They're like can this guy fucking leave us? I agree. I'm like, get the hell out. Like, I would much rather be a ska than hang out with this douchebag all the time. I don't trust him at all. But turns out, I guess we can trust him. I guess he's a cool guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely a singular character.
Yes. He is self-insert epic action hero cool guy.
Yes, he very much is.
Which, I do think actually works in the book. I just want to make that clear. Yeah. It's not for me, but I think it works in the book. I don't think it's like an out-of-place thing in this world. It's just not my cup of tea.
I agree. And I think I'm not Kelsier fanboy, but I agree. I think it works well. I think this book needed someone like him to work.
Yeah, because the rest of the crew is hilariously unlikable. So, and I hate Vin, but we'll get there.
Well, so then Kelsier comes, talks about rebellion to the ska, and then leaves, and then the ska wake up, and like the whole manor's burnt down, and lords are killed, and so they're kind of forced into rebelling, even though they didn't want to, in order to survive, which is morally gray move by Kelsier.
That is so. It is good to know that. Because he says, hang on, I had it just right here in my notes, but it is literally like, well, they're not, oh yeah, because they're the ska are talking to each other, and they're like, oh my god, why did Kelsier do this? And then one of them says, because he knew because he knew we'd never rebel on our own, so he gave us no choice, end quote. When I was reading it, I definitely did not think that Brandon Sanderson was trying to make me feel morally gray. I just thought he was of the opinion where, like, no, this is the right thing to do. Like, you always have to rebel. Which, when I was reading it, I thought was fucking crazy. Like, just thinking about it, like a serf peasant class, which is what, they're not all slaves, the ska, but they are, like, the serfdom of this world. If you did that to, like, a medieval peasant, like, that guy doesn't know how to fucking read. What do you mean he's gonna just join a rebellion? They're gonna get executed because they have nowhere to go.
Yeah, hence why, like, Kelsier, I think, again, it says, I think that's less, Sanderson thing that's the right move, but, like, given who Kelsier is, that's what he would do and wants to do and think is right.
And that makes more sense later when Kelsier just absolutely slaughters a bunch of people who just have day jobs, which I think retroactively makes me be like, oh no, I was supposed. Yeah, I get it. It
is very anti-hero. He is very edgelord anti-hero guy.
He really is. He really is. But I do think his general disposition. And, honestly, later in this section, the way he goes about being an anti-hero guy is not... I feel like he stops being super morally gray. When he speaks to Vin and he's like, I'm not going to betray you. Do you want to learn how to do magic? I was like, what? Like, this is the same guy? And I don't know if I'm getting hoodwinked, because my original called shot was that this is the Lord Ruler.
Oh.
But then, I don't know, we get chapters from his perspective where he's like, his inner monologue is like, I'm not lying, so why would I have any reason to believe that he's lying, Right. Unless that's a crazy meta-narrative, but I don't know, I have a feeling that's not what happens, but if it does, man, holy moly, will I eat my hat.
And it is like still the first section of the book with like a book with effectively two main characters. Yeah. And so like you don't get a lot of, background for Kelsier, and you only see him interacting in certain ways. And so, you have the rest of the book to sort of learn more about him. And I think you do. And I think you end up knowing him better by the end.
And just one other thing, there's some kind of mist.
Yep.
That
from the title. It's from the title. Mistborn. The mist. Mists are outside.
Okay. It's just he has this hilarious line that I highlighted, and my note here says okay. The line is, I brought her out in the sunlight and she didn't disappear. That proves she's not a mist wraith. And I wrote okay, because I don't. Yeah, sure. I guess. Well, whatever any of that means. But the mist is weird. I don't know. It's not clear instantly why people are afraid of it, other than it's like creepy mist. And then even later, I'm still not sure why people are afraid of it. I know that the miss rates can be scary, but we do meet one, and it's kind of seems silly, like a goofy guy, and I love him.
Yeah, it's like a goofy, like, Studio Ghibli character.
Yeah. So I'm excited to learn more about that, and I hope it's not just like like, I don't know, they're just scared of the mist because the mists are like a new thing. That would be kind of lame, I think. Also, sorry I keep talking, and just one other thing. I actually really like this. I thought it was corny, but I actually really do like it. They're like, Kelsey, why are you smiling, And he says, and I quote, "You ask why I smile, Goodman Menace. Well, the Lord Ruler thinks he has claimed laughter and joy for himself. I'm disinclined to let him do so. This is one battle that doesn't take very much effort to fight." I was like, oh... I was like, oh, that's why he's happy all the time, is because he has to. And then, that's not really true. He's just kind of happy and funny because we got to have a Han Solo thief character in the book, and that's fine. But I really liked that. I thought that was a really good motivation for why we need a character like this in this book.
Yeah, and especially with early on in this book, with Vin being undeveloped as a character.
Yeah.
Because we see that development, like having someone who like is a full rounded character is that we can follow is good. Like it is kind of interesting when you like reading through and like knowing what he has to set up and what he hasn't. Like really, there's a lot of complex moving parts, and I think some of I think the execution is done pretty well and very easily readable.
It is very easily readable, yeah.
So on to part 1. We meet our hero of the story, Vin. And Vin has trust issues.
Yeah, boy, does Brandon Sanderson... Oh my fucking god! There's a page in this in one of these chapters where 3 times on the page it's like, I thought he'd betray me. Oh no, I was worried about getting betrayed. I was digging my eyes out of my skull. It's like if she says the word betray one more time, I'm gonna fucking lose it.
Yeah, like someone says hello to her, and he's like, I was surprised he didn't betray me too.
Yeah, it's like, what is the matter? I literally have what? I just highlighted a section where she's talking about betrayal. My note just says what? Like, I don't...
it's just, yeah, it is not...
It's not subtle.
It's not subtle.
Yeah, it's so not subtle. I thought it was going to be like a joke. But it's not. It's her character. It's the first thing we learn about her. And it's like so... I think it's dumb. I don't like it. It puts a bad taste in your mouth to meet one of the main character of this book, and that's her only character trait.
And I think it's because it's said so many times. I feel like if you said it like 3 times, like you'd get it. If you said it 3 times and she acted the way she acted, like you'd get it. But the fact that like every page, it's like, and then Reen said, I remember him saying, everyone will betray you.
Yeah. And he betrayed. It's her brother taught her so many things that had reinforced them by doing what he'd always promised he would do by betraying her himself. What? Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not a lesson. You're just a dickhead. Why would she interpret it as like, I learned my lesson? Like, no, that's not a lesson. It's stupid.
Well, I think the big part of it is like, with we can talk about the ska in depth now or not, but Vin grew up like that, and they are almost comically hopeless at all times. Which, like,
they are.
I guess I understand why you would be, but like, it does sort of. I find like it teeters the line between believable and like, okay.
Yeah, I think it's kind of silly, how sad they are. Not all the time, but they're just like. There are 2 classes of people in this world, and I do think this is, like I said, it's like a sort of a. I mean, has a very archetypal young adult fantasy novel structure. Like a hero is plucked from obscurity and thrust into like this magical world that she doesn't understand. And, it helps with that where we don't have to really have complex questions about class when there are dirty, poor, hopeless slaves and evil, conniving rich people. Like, it's pretty cut and dry.
At least right away.
Yes, at least right away. Because I doubt that... I'm sure that not all the nobles are bad. And, in fact, a part of this section is about that. Is about one character coming to the realization that might not be the case. I just wish more of that was here, because I get it. Like, instantly, I got it. And then for 140 pages, I still get it. Like, I learned nothing really new, which sucks.
And I think, like, I think Sanderson has talked about how, if he was writing the first Mistborn book today, he'd like do things differently. Like I think he said he would condense the first part to be like more to the point. To which I'm like, I think it need like there's scenes that sort of do the same thing. Like why are we?
The thieves meet and then they talk about a plan.
Yes,
and then
exactly.
They're like, we'll meet again, and then they talk about the same plan. They have the same conversation twice. It's
but there
insane.
are more details in the second plan.
And he has a whiteboard. He's writing words on a whiteboard. But yeah.
Okay, so Vin, like we said, has trust issues. If you did not get that from the book, you should read it again. And she is part of a thieving crew led by Cayman. Is it Cayman?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what... I didn't listen to the audiobook when they said his name, so I've been saying it Cayman.
Who cares? He's in his for 2 seconds. His name's Cayman.
True.
And they are scamming noblemen. And Vin, he keeps Vin around as sort of like a good luck charm. We eventually find out that's because she can soothe people with her allomancy, and she doesn't know she's doing it. Which is, I think, kind of cool.
I do. I think calling it luck is dumb as hell. Because, how is that luck? She knows she's using magic. That's not luck.
No, but she didn't know she's using magic.
Right, but she knows she's doing something.
Yeah.
Like, that's not luck. That's the thing. Like, if I'm doing good at my job, I'm not be like, oh, God, I was really lucky there. It's like, no, you know how you're doing something and you know you're doing it.
Max, she's an orphan ska. I gotta give her a break.
They have this line, a ska thief here. That's Real Big Fish when they covered Take On Me by that band. So, that's what I think a ska thief is. 2 A's though, so technically not the music.
Ska Thief, a band that stole another band's music. Yeah. Ska cover band, a ska cover band called Ska Thief.
I just don't understand why you'd make it not ska.
It's I don't know. It's a word. It's just a made up word.
But it's not, Danylo.
No. Band ska has 1 A. This one has 2 A's.
I know. It's just so silly because he's a Mormon, right?
Yeah. Do you think he doesn't know what's? Do you think he didn't know what
do you think
ska
when he
music
wrote
was?
this? Yeah. Do you think when he wrote the book, he had never heard ska music before? I mean,
possibly. And then maybe by the time it got to like an editor, it's too late to change it.
Yeah, it's fucking everywhere.
And they did in 2006. They didn't have replace all, so.
Yeah, that's true. They didn't have computers back. They still write on a typewriter, click and clack it on there. But yeah, I mean, at a certain point, it stopped being funny. So I did get used to it, but just for this first section, every time it said like ska clothing. It's like checkered shoes and like it's just like I couldn't get it out of my head that this world
not like an ashy tunic. It's like hip clothes from the 90s.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you're the first one to have this experience, but I think when I read it, it took me like 2 seconds to be like, oh, this is a different thing. But
no, that's good. I couldn't get over it, but I did. I mean, eventually, but it took me a while.
All right, so the final empire, we learn more about the structure. It's a theocracy. You got the Lord Ruler, who's in charge of everything, who's been in charge of the empire for 1,000 years, who resides in the capital of Luthadel, where also the great houses live. They have these huge cathedral-like keeps.
It's cool.
It is cool. I always feel like it feels like Gothic Paris. Like everything's sort of like covered in ash,
that's
and there's
exactly
like
how
the
I
stained glass, and then we have the obligators, like we talked about in the prologue, and they're sort of like the priest, monk, government people who are in charge of everything. And then we got the Steel Inquisitors, of which we meet one later.
In this, so Luthadel, I was definitely just giving my thoughts. I have no real note here, but for whatever reason, I was like absolutely sure the whole book was going to take place here. And I thought, is this not where this is where the Lord Ruler is, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay, all right, that's probably
His
why.
palace is like the big one. It's called Kreddick Shaw, and it has
Did they
like
say that in this?
I
Did I
think it
miss
does.
that?
I think Kelsier like jumps around near it or by it or something.
Oh yeah, I kind of with the when he's doing his action scene.
Yeah, it has like 1,000 spires or something, so it's super
Oh, that's
obvious.
badass.
It's pretty cool. Well, we can talk about the Steel Inquisitor now, because
Oh yeah,
Vin and Cayman go to the Ministry of Finance building to try to scam some noblemen because of boat and shipment, and who cares?
yeah, whatever.
But I think it ends up being important, but who cares? Vin uses her luck on the extremely high-ranking obligator, and they make the deal and they leave. But it turns out that the obligator is onto them, and a Steel Inquisitor appears. I know when I first read this, I thought the Steel Inquisitor was so cool, and I looked up a picture, and I'm like, damn, that's exactly how I imagined it, and it's cool.
Yeah, they are very cool. I think shit like that works really well, and his Sanderson's prose is really simple, which normally I appreciate, but I kind of wish it was more complicated here. But I think it really works when it's so simple and then describes something horrifying like that. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's a really effective use of the way that he writes. And it was really effective because I really thought some shit was going to go down. I was a little disappointed. Virtually no shit went down about the Steel Inquisitor, but we gotta wait for that. I understand.
Yeah, this is like it's like the first fourth of the book. Yeah, so Vin and Cayman go back, and then Kelsier comes back and saves Vin when Cayman starts beating her up. Then Cayman gets like demoted, and Kelsier takes over, and that's when all the stuff starts happening. They get the crew in there, they start talking about plans. We learn a little bit more about Vin, where we find that Vin's mother tried to kill her, and Reen saved her, and then that's how they were alone by themselves trying to survive.
This is a perfect time for me to go on my Vin rant.
All right, hit me. The Vin rant. Go.
Okay. So first of all, she's the dumbest person in the world because she's like, she's asked how come she's magic. Kelsier's like, okay, who are your parents? Because the only people who are magic are part of the nobility. And she's like, well, my mom was a whore. And they're like, okay, what about your dad? And she's like, well, he was a high priest of the... I was like, why would you fucking start with that? Like, obviously, you're going to be magic if you came from and even later, she's like, oh, why am I magic? My mother was just a whore. Like, shut the... You know that your dad was the... I don't understand why she keeps saying that. Also, I have a general problem with her, not her as a character, but the way Brandon Sanderson has written, like the reason Vin is like, or she's like dealing with beatings and assault. I just hate that stuff. I feel like there's a more interesting way we can make her a defenseless character than like she's another victim of violence.
Yeah.
I just think that's boring, and I think it's belittling to her because it's not important to her character. It's just to make her sad so that she can be magic.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me at all. And also, there's like, just going back a little bit, when Cayman and the Obligator are having a conversation, the only reason Vin is in that room is so that the author can tell the audience what's happening in the conversation he is also writing. So the characters will say something, and then I'll be like, oh, that's an interesting. And then Vin, in her thoughts, will just say the subtext. Just in case you're a fucking idiot and you didn't know how to read and you didn't know how to use context clues. You don't have to, because the characters do it for you.
It is very like, oh God,
Yes,
and
it is.
I think that's a big part of this. The first part, I think, partially this book as a whole, but definitely the first part of this is, I think there's so much stuff like to come and things that happen, but maybe not that much, that I think, in Sanderson's mind it was extremely complicated, so it was very important to just hammer home like what the baseline is. And I think sometimes it comes across as like condescending almost.
Yeah, that is what it felt like. But it's interesting because that does stop happening. Like, that doesn't happen in the towards the end of the chapter when they leave Luthadel, man, I was getting into it.
Yeah.
But because that stops happening and characters just have interesting conversations with each other. I don't think they're particularly good characters, and that's something that I have learned is like a thing. It's like people have with Brandon Sanderson. They're like, the characters are whatever. It's not really what we're here for. Which, true. I am much more interested. This is I feel like it wants to be character driven, but this is a plot driven story. I want to see the heist unfold. Like, I do not care about these people.
And I think for me too. I think a lot of people read Brandon Sanderson because like the characters are fine. They have the emotional journey that they need to have, and you're like, oh, that's nice. But you're here for like the crazy magic lore, extended universe, crazy plot stuff. And that stuff's great.
But that's tough for me because I didn't know any of that. And so for me, I'm just like, what the fuck? I mean, dude, when we start talking about Allomancy, I got another rant coming up here, man. But the Vin stuff really put there's just like a couple things in the first 100 pages, because the last like 70 to the end of part 2, I was really kind of rocking with. But the 120 or so pages, man, it felt like we kept starting and then somebody would pull the rug right out from under me. It felt like that kept happening.
And I think that's potentially part of the drawbacks of reading it how like we're reading it. Like, I think you're really supposed to just plow through the first 150 pages as fast as possible so you can get to all the other stuff, you know? And I think the fact that we're sitting here analyzing all the little things, like...
It doesn't do them any favors.
Yeah.
But it's important. It is a book.
Yeah, it is like the beginning of the book, and like clearly like someone who like hopefully you end up enjoying it. Like if someone starts this book and doesn't know certain things going in or doesn't have certain expectations, like that's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth.
Yeah, like if we did not do this podcast, I would not have kept reading.
And the only reason I did is I think because I went through the first part of the book so quickly. Like I'm like I get it. Okay, like. It gets more complicated and interesting.
When they went into their second thief meeting, that's when I turned on the audiobook and was like, I'm pretty sure I can just tune this out and then tune back in when interesting shit's going. It's like, seriously, it's like watching old professional wrestling. You just like fast forward through a bunch of this garbage shit, tax collectors wrestling fucking plumbers, and you're like, I want to see the cool stuff.
Yeah, I totally forgot there were two. And I think, again, like something that Brandon Sanderson has said, he's like, if I could have rewritten it, there would have been one thief meeting.
There's no reason why there's two. There's seriously not.
But you get to learn more about them.
Yeah, but they suck. Yeah, sorry.
What's next? I don't remember what next was. Oh yeah, Vin saves her, and we learned that Vin is a Mistborn. That's the title of the book.
That was pretty cool. I like that there's different... I enjoy the explanation. And I wish it stopped there, that there's the Mistings, and they can use one magic, and then the Mistborn can use all of them. I like that.
Yep.
I think that's cool as hell.
It is very... And especially, I think one of the big jobs of this first section is, like, beating you over head with how allomancy works. And I also think, part of it, too, could be that... I don't know, like, what the history of hard magic systems like this is. I have a sense that, like, Sanderson was one of the first to really make it super popular. Like, here's something that's unlike anything you've ever read from the ground up and is super specific and is important that you grab all the elements so you can do dramatic things with them later. Like, I ran out of metals. What am I going to do? I only have this metal. How am I going to get out of this situation? And, like, I think with other... things, like, I guess he can be forgiven for beating you over the head with it, or his editor telling him that he has to beat everyone over the head with it.
And I do think that's a good point that I didn't really think about. It is going to set us up for dramatic situations later, but just for this bit, fucking sucks, man. It's just because it's this whole first section needs to set everything up so that interesting and cool stuff can happen later. But it just so happens that, like, after the thief meeting, we then have the meeting where they talk about magic, and then they have another meeting. I was like, oh my god.
Everyone has to be on the same page.
I do. I think that allomancy as an idea is pretty cool. I like the idea of drinking a bunch of metal, and you get magic based off the different metal. I'm not entirely sure I needed to know that the pewter you use needs to be 91% pewter and 9% whatever. I don't think we need to know any of that.
I think the explanation for that is like, oh, why can't you just grab whatever metal's nearby, like break it off of like a lamppost and like eat it?
Yeah.
Do they have to be like
true.
special
and
metals?
And they do say you can't. The whole time I was thinking about like, why can't they just rip the metals out of each other? And then there's a sentence where they're like, "This is why." I was like, "Oh, okay, good. That's good. That's good." Because you have iron in your blood, so just rip that out.
Another thing too is like this sets up your understanding of allomancy for like not this trilogy, but the next trilogy, and then the forthcoming trilogy after that. So like there is that part of it as well. Do you want to do your allomancy rant now, since we're talking about allomancy?
Oh, that was mostly it. I don't need to know that many specifics. We need to learn how it works, obviously, if it's going to be important. But they really talk for a long time, and I feel like I really feel like I could have read this whole book without the word steel push being in it once, and it would be the same thing. Because they really, and just the way he talks about it is so confusing. Like the metal that is used to make somebody not trust you is called pull. Or like that it's like a pull, it's like, I don't know, tin pull or whatever. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you think that pulling would make somebody trust you, like you're bringing them into your embrace?
Well, I think I've interpreted it as like you're like flaring someone's emotions and you're soothing someone's emotions, you know? Mm-hmm. So like sort of whatever they're sort of feeling, like you can make them really feel that, or you can like calm them down from feeling it, rather than like any specific emotion. Like if they're already kind of not trusting you and like you pull on that, they're gonna like really distrust you. But like if they're kind of not trusting you and you soothe them, they're gonna like, oh, maybe I'm not distrusting them that much, you know? That's how I
like that. All right. I'm okay with that.
So at the second thief meeting, we learn about the exact details of the plot to overthrow the First Empire, which is Kelsier's big plan. And it's a hard sell, but he does it.
And this is also where we meet the crew.
Yeah, and we meet the crew. So like, what was your experience like when you say he's like, we're gonna bring this all down? Like what did you think of that?
Well, here's a thing, that's not what a thief would do, so I think that's insane. I do agree with all of the characters in thinking that's insane, and I also think his plan is to steal the valuable metal that the Lord Ruler uses so that they can be rich, right? Because he sells it to people for an extraordinary amount of money. He sells it to the nobles. If you destroy the empire, there are no more nobles. Who do you sell the metal to, and why would anybody buy it?
So I mean, here's the thing. We don't know what Adium does yet.
Yeah, but he says that they sell it. Like they're like, it's really valuable, but it's only valuable because of it's like if you stole a bunch, like the U.S. Treasury Department and then killed the president. Like,
I mean, so I guess we'll find out.
All right. I thought that was I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
I'll say two things. One, we will learn more about Adium. Two, I think you're right to have questions about the details of the plan.
It's just nobody questioned that part of it, which I was like, when is somebody going to say why the hell? And it's also like only a metal that he can use, right? I assume, because he's Mistborn. Or maybe it's not. Who knows?
Oh, maybe we'll find out.
I want to know what they also talk. Okay, so hang on. I got to talk about this crew here for a minute, because you gave me explicit instructions when the crew pops up. You're like, try and remember anything about any of them.
Yeah, I try to remember one thing about each of them so you have something to tie their names to. Because the first time I went through this series, I was sort of like skimmed. I'll be like, oh, eventually I'll be able to learn who they are. I did not. And things happened. And I'm like, who is that? Which one? Was that the old cranky one or like the suave one? And I could not remember.
Yeah, the suave cool one is Breeze.
Yep.
The cranky one is Clubs. Or is Clubs the thug? Oh boy. Here we go. I failed. But anyway, Doxson and Kelsier are tight. Kelsier is Mistborn. Doxson is
his best friend.
Right, who isn't magic at all, right? Or no?
I thought he was a misting. Hold on. I've got the wiki pulled up.
Oh, no.
He's the only non-Allomancer part of the crew.
Yes.
Okay, nice,
great.
Nice.
And then there's a Seeker. No, that's Breeze is the Seeker. No, he's the Smoker. Fuck.
Yeah. No, Breeze is the soother. He's the emotional one. He does the emotions.
Wait, then who's the Smoker? Is that Clubs? Because is that his name? He leaves and he's like, "Fuck this," and then he comes back.
He's the old crabby one. I think that's.
And he has all the servants, right? It's like his area they hang out in because all the servants are magic too, and it kind of creates like a nullifying force field.
Yes. Yep. He's a smoker.
Okay, and then who's the thug? I don't remember his name. Oh, it's Ham.
Ham, there we go. Yep. And he's like kind of philosophical. That's like his other
trait. I like him.
Yeah.
He's my favorite one. I can't stand any of the rest of them. Except for Doxson's all right.
I only like Breeze because he's the only one I can differentiate.
Yeah, because he like the way his dialogue is written, it's immediately obvious who is speaking because he's like a posh asshole.
Yeah.
I do wish that they weren't such. They're not.
I'll say I wish they weren't all men. I'll say that right away. I think Sanderson has also said that too. I seem to recall an interview.
White men until we meet. Oh, there's one maybe person of color. Obviously, I think these characters can be whatever color they. Person who makes a visual representation wants them to be, but they're all named like regular fantasy names, and then one of them is named Sazed, and it's obvious to me that he is not a white man.
Yes.
In the way he is described as speaking, he's described as speaking as melodic, and I was like, oh, how the fuck is the audiobook guy gonna do this? And by God,
really?
It's melodic. Yeah, he fucking knocked it out of the park. I thought it was awesome.
Damn. Okay, I'll have
He's my favorite character so far, even though I have problems with him. But
okay, well, so the plan. This is the plan. The plan is to. Oh, there's also the guy. There's also Yedin, or Yaden.
Yadan. That's how I was saying it.
Oh, really? Oh, God.
But I don't know. Yedin. We'll just call him Yedin.
Yedin, and he's the leader of the Ska Rebellion, and they have caves. And he's also there. He's hired Kelsier and the crew to help him overthrow the Empire. And so the plan is to raise an army, train them in the caves, distract the Luthadel garrison to go somewhere else, then create a house war among the houses so there's chaos in the streets, and then the Ska army that trained in the caves is going to come in, take over the city, and be able to defend it. And then Kelsier's going to go in and do a hit on the Lord Ruler. And that's the plan.
Yeah.
And he has a little vial with a special metal in it called the 11th metal, and that's what's going to kill him.
Oh, is that? Oh, he has it.
Yeah.
He does have it. Okay.
And I think he does it. He got it somewhere, and I don't think he even knows what it does, but he knows it's like his weakness.
All right. I can't imagine that's going to go well for him when he decides to use it.
Yeah, it turns out that's a bomb.
It's COVID.
This is
distilled
COVID.
But yeah, I thought that, as far as terrible plans go, it's not the worst. I mean, the pieces add up to something that makes sense. It's just that the pieces are insane.
Yeah, and it's clever, and it's sort of, there's a lot of dialogue for them to get to the plan. Like, oh, what about this? Oh, no, not that because of this. What about this? And we're like, okay.
Yeah, there really is.
Because everyone
and it's
cause it
Vin.
has to be naturalistic, you know?
And of course, it's the little girl who knows nothing about anything is the one who comes up with the perfect idea. Like, I was just like, yeah, whatever. It's pointless to complain about stuff like that. But, I mean, I like that idea. I want to know more. I feel like Kelsier's character goes back and forth about whether or not he's, like, scared of the pits. I feel like when she brings up the pits, he'd freak the fuck out, but he's like, no, it's a good idea. I feel like I would freak out.
Well, it's him. Well, because that's where he went.
Yeah.
He was, like, trapped there and worked there. That's where the Lord Ruler mines the Adium.
His wife or girlfriend or muse was killed there or something.
Yep, and I think it's hinted at. I think we find out it hints that his wife Mare betrayed him, or betrayed them, or something,
and that she was into the rebellion, right? And Kelsier's in it for the cashola.
I think so.
Which I would never join a rebellion for the money. That's not something I would...
For the money from the horribly repressed peasant class.
Yeah. I do think that's a cool... Nobody has brought that up yet. I understand they're thieves. But that I would probably... my goal would be to redistribute the wealth. I really hope that Kelsier turns out to be the bad guy. I'm gonna be really upset if he's just kind of like an asshole the whole time, and that's kind of it. I really hope that I hope that he does not, like, my hope for his character arc is that he does not learn and become a better person. I want him to double down and go in for business for himself. I think that would be really awesome, because we already have another Mistborn, so she'll be the good version of him. But we'll see, because Vin has her own suite of interesting issues. I would not, if I'm God, I'm not giving this little girl these magical powers. No way, not in a million years is that happening. So,
well, I mean, part of the interesting thing too is I like that it addresses the sort of the class difference that would happen if, like, certain people genetically get the super powerful magic powers and certain people don't, and, like, what are the effects of that in a particular society, you know? Where, like, all the nobles are nobles because they have the powers.
That's cool. I'm excited to learn more about the magic and the Mistborn. I want to meet more of them, because there are apparently a lot, but they're like sort of a secret. I mean, this book's got fucking sects of people on top of sects of people. There's the nobles, and within the nobles there's different kinds of houses, and the greater houses have like these crazy metal magic assassins, which I think is cool. I'm excited to meet another one. Yeah, that's not one of these two people I hate, so that'll be cool.
And then we move on to the part where Kelsier does a heist of Keep Venture to steal some Adium.
Yeah.
And for me, I think, again, this is like a showcase of the Allomancy. And what I really like about this part is the way that you learn about all this stuff from someone who doesn't know about it, like the whole fish out of water thing with Vin. And then you see sort of how this part of the world has oriented itself to all this stuff. Like, I think this stuff about, like, everyone has glass daggers, because why would anyone have metal daggers? And, like, there's specific warriors who don't wear any metal on them to specifically deal with Mistborn. I think that stuff's really cool.
I do, but I tuned out a little bit when it's just he's doing flips and like, I get
killing
it,
people and stabbing people, and
It's cool, you know. I mean, Brandon Sanderson should make a video game. Like, that really seems like what he wants to do, is make a cool video game. But
why write books, man? Just make a video game.
I like the coin. I like that. That's the only part of the Allomancy I really think we needed to learn, is the coin, or the you know, if there's a coin on the ground, you can do like a Mario double jump off of it, because of, you know, you push it into the ground and then it pushes you up. That's cool. Yep. Because it meets a resisting force. So that's just how they can fly. Like that. Yes. And I think that works, and that's fine. And I also think it's really cool. But that's, you know, I don't think we need a ton of magic information. And this section, the heist, doesn't have any. It's a good opportunity for him to just sort of, flex on the reader. That's like, yeah, you got this fucking idiot girl. She can't even stand up. But look at me, dude. I'm sick. I'm doing backflips. I'm slitting dudes' throats. I think that's pretty cool.
And then we also learn about like the whole pulling and pushing thing, and like the blue lines going to everything. I personally, that doesn't work for me at all.
No,
I think
me neither.
it's like weird and cartoony, and I sort of understand like, okay, if you can sense, I guess you could have gone with, oh, you just sense all the metal around you and you know what's close, and then you can sort of sense it. But I guess it's visual. I don't know.
Yeah, but it is a book. It doesn't. I don't need to know that the lines are thin and blue and I can't see them and they go everywhere.
And the person doing it is the only one who can see it, but you can also feel them. So,
and this also gets literally brought up twice. The blue lines are explained here, and then when Vin activates it, she's like, "What are these blue lines?" And then Kelsier explains it again. Oh my god.
It's again, if there was one big Almancy scene and there was one meeting, like you could knock 50 pages off of this.
This would be 15 pages long. This whole section. But he steals atium, right, from this guy.
Oh, do they say atium in the audiobook?
Yeah, that is what the audiobook says.
Okay, I'll say atium.
But he, this is where I thought the Inquisitor was going to come back. Like he barely gets the metal, and then it's like, oh shit, he has to run because they're big bad guys here. I thought that would have been cool, but didn't happen. But that's not any fault of the book. That's just because I thought it was going to happen and it didn't.
Well, and something I thought about this is a little, I don't know if this is a plot hole, but like, the safe is metal, right? So
yes, a terrible idea.
Could you open it with your metal powers? You don't have to carry it with you.
No, you really don't.
Should take 2 seconds, just blast a coin through there, open it, get the atium.
Couldn't anywhere in the city you could just lift up your hand and it would fly into? Like, I just don't. Yeah. I don't understand. But whatever.
The distance is like from a certain distance, it doesn't work.
Oh, that's true. They do fade away.
And that's what the lines are about. That they fade away. So it's like a certain bubble. And I don't know if there's like a Cosmere specific reason for the blue lines, because the whole thing about like the Cosmere magic is that like it's all interconnected based on sort of the same kind of like powers or like physical laws, or like there's certain laws and how they work, and it's sort of the same throughout magic systems and the different planets.
Cool.
Which is pretty cool. But I don't know, maybe the blue lines have something to do with that. Or they just don't.
I don't know. They're just blue lines. They need to, it's like having, detective vision in a video game. Just so you can see all the interactable objects around you.
I think he knew he was going to make a movie from it.
That's what I'm saying, man. I really think that this would be a better movie. Because he does a lot of telling and not showing. Yeah. And I think that a producer's not going to let him get away with that in a movie. And we'll see a lot. Listen, man, I'm telling you. There's no 2 thief scenes in a theatrical release.
Yeah, that's true.
There's probably barely one. They just kind of explain the plan.
They're not showing up to set doing the second one. Be like, maybe we should have put these into one. Like they combine them earlier on in the process.
Yeah.
Some guy in a suit is like, I'm not paying for 2 thief scenes.
Quentin Tarantino shows up, executive producer. They lied to him. They said there's 1 thief scene. He gets it said. He's like, there's 2 thief scenes?
Oh, you think Quentin Tarantino doing Mistborn?
Yeah,
I think Kelsier says the N-word.
Yeah, and I think we see it was shot of Vin's feet pans up to her face.
Oh, maybe one day.
Maybe for good boys. Maybe one day.
So we also learned during the planning about more stuff about the Lord Ruler, that he saved the world from the deepness 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And that a imposter named Lord Renaud is on their side and will help sort of disguise their plans in the noblemen area.
Importantly, though, not vanilla regular Lord Renaud. He is some kind of horrible creation, or that's at least what it's alluded to, because the reader doesn't find out.
Right.
And Yadan, whatever, he's like, wait, why is there a guy and he's with us? And Breeze is like, you don't want to know at all. If you don't like the fact that we're killing people. Also, the rebel, he's like, can we please not kill anybody? I was like, what the fuck? I was like, you're actually a terrorist. Like, what do you mean you're not cool with killing people?
Well, and doesn't Kelsier at some point tell him, like, this is why the rebellion has never been successful? Because you guys just won't do anything.
Is that true? I must have missed that.
I think he at some point says, I don't think it's because of that, but he's like, this is why, he said something along the lines of, this is why the rebellion never did anything.
Oh, I love that. He's right. Oh, also, this is, we may have missed this, but Kelsier's a brother.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up next. His name's Marsh.
I like him too, because he also doesn't like Kelsier. We're in the same boat, baby. Me and Marsh have a lot in common. I don't trust him. I trust Marsh, but, so does he decide to join the plan?
I think he does.
Did I miss that? But reluctantly so, though, because it seems like Kelsier's really in it this time. But
yeah, well, and I think they worked together before, and then Kelsier's all like, he'll say no, but he'll eventually come around, and that's exactly what happens. And then we already talked about this, the second Allomancy scene. That's the full-on training scene where we learn about all the little details of Allomancy. And
we really do.
We don't have to explain it, because you can just read those pages and you'll get it.
Yeah, really. I didn't think that we were really gonna do all the medals.
It's the tutorial. It's the tutorial section before the book starts.
Right, but exactly. It's not that I'm not the magic one. I don't need to learn that I don't know. It was just really made me laugh. I was like, "Do you expect me to be able to do this now?" Like after reading it, I don't know. It just was so long and boring, and they're just like, God, she just asked the dumbest fucking question. She's never once like. I really feel like she's never amazed that she's magical.
She's like, someone's gonna betray me.
Yeah, she's more focused on that. This is around the time where it's mentioned 3 times on the same page that she's worried about being betrayed. She's like, dude, there's way cooler stuff going on. You're about to assassinate the emperor? Like, that's pretty cool, man. But you're too busy like, oh my god. Well, it's like, you have no more secrets to show me because you showed me all your magic. And it's like, shut up. Yes, of course he has more secrets. Look at him. Like, he hasn't told you everything. Why are you assuming that he has? That's just you're so used to being betrayed. How do you not see that he's holding stuff from you? I just don't get it.
Or why would you, like, I don't know, care? Like, what? Yeah. Like, I guess for her, it's like, I don't know. I agree. It's very weird.
If she's that worried about being betrayed, she should leave. The fact that she stays and the reason that she gives is fucking insane. Like, that is... She's like, I just want to see what happens. Like, you're going to get betrayed! What do you mean you're going to get betrayed? That's what's going to happen. I think
it is like it's because you can see what he's going for with Vin in this beginning thing. Like, someone who's, like, really, really down. Like, even among the ska, like, really...
Yeah.
The mind is so just, like broken almost. And again, to an almost comical extent, I think, only because the same things are repeated so often. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's probably another version of this where it's more subtle and, like, her interior is more believable. Other than that, like, well, if my brother betrayed me and my mom tried to kill me, well, I probably wouldn't trust anyone. And that's my characteristic.
Yeah, she says it a million fucking times just in case you didn't get the point. There's no reason to me, at least yet, that the book should not have began with Reen betraying her. Mm. And so we get to see what was and what is, and we try to, like, find some, I don't mean to hero's journey this, but we develop a new person. Like, the two halves come together and create the hero. But we don't have that first half because it's happened off the page, and I'm sure it's important for the overall story, but for reading it really makes her half a character, because we don't see it wouldn't be so funny that she mentions being betrayed so many times if we knew why already. We would care for her. Because right now I think she's annoying as hell because she brings it up all the time.
And I think it tries to do that. I wonder if part of it, why it, belabors the point so much, is that it tries to do all the work that it couldn't do because of where we met her, like talking about doing the two halves. Like I think it's sort of trying to do it both at once to show her how she was in the current area. Either maybe it's because I read it so fast the first time. I'll be interested to see how my feelings about Vin change or if they're the same.
Yeah. Were you the first time you read it, were you happy with her character?
I think she's fine.
Okay. Do you feel that way about all of the characters?
More or less. It's also, for me, again, I think the star of the show is like the sum total of everything. And so like part of the thing is like any one thing doesn't particularly merit or stand up to super deep analysis, but like it's the full picture.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. And then, that's okay. It's just I really feel like the book wants to be a character drama, and he is not at this point, I feel, a good enough writer to write a compelling character drama. Because boy, can he write the shit out of a fucking action scene. But then I don't really care about the action scene because I don't care about the characters in it. So it's like a tough thing. I'm excited for the big, like, sort of tent pole confrontations that this part is setting up, the heist, the inevitable implosion of this thief crew, which, I mean, hey, that's gotta be coming at some point.
Yeah.
Everybody's tensions are high, man, so I'm excited for that stuff, but these sort of walk and talks, except for one, which we'll talk about, we're pretty much there, I wasn't a fan of.
After that, they go to the villa in Felice, where Lord Bernu lives. And Vin is very impressed by how clean it is. And there are still ska workers at the villa, even though it's the rebel villa. Which I think, again, is trying to be morally gray, but is sort of like, what are the actual implications of all this? And we don't see it. It's not like there's like, oh, here's the point of view of the ska person working at the...
They're also described as being happy there, which I was like, oh, boy, I don't like this.
Well, and that's part of it, too, is you don't get the point of view of, like, a normal ska person.
Yeah.
So you only, like, see it all from the outside, which makes sense because, like, yeah, they're not going to do anything because they're ska and they're horribly, repressed and downtrodden. But also then you don't get the other side of it. Like, well, how do they feel about all this? They are, in a lot of sense, they're like, almost like props.
Yeah, they are, and I mean, literally, it's fantasy world needs, in Sanderson's vision, the fantasy world needs slaves. So we'll just, we'll make it real black and white and make all the good guys part of the slave class. But then it's like, okay, but what about when the good guys want to hang out with each other? Well, then the slaves will just be happy there. And it's like, no, that's not the answer. They think the answer is to make... I don't know, to just do anything other than that. Like, that's such a crazy thing to me. Like, I could not believe that is what was happening. And also, this villa is described as the cedar trees aren't affected by the ash. The bark isn't affected by the ash. And this is just a nitpicky thing, but like, what a convenient way to not make every part of your book covered in ash. You're just like, this part is not affected by it. You're like, oh, okay, sure, whatever.
Is it not affected, or do they just like clean it?
The tree, either way, it just really made, I was like, that's funny. It's just like, fuck it. Like, no, sometimes it's not covered in ash.
I think I always find with Sanderson things sometimes, like, he makes it so complicated, but then, like, there is, like, the sort of obvious thing that will, like, kind of make it all unravel, and there's just a line of, like, no. That doesn't work. Like what about pulling metals on people's bodies? Oh, once it's your body, you can't be touched.
Yeah.
Just because as soon as you think about that, it all falls apart.
Yeah. Which, is cool, though. They bring that up. They're like, she has an earring that she could, like, fucking take out throw it through somebody's eyeball.
Yeah.
It's fucking badass. That's super cool. But thank God somebody can't rip her head off because she has earrings in her ears. That'd be messed up.
Yeah.
That'd be a funny end of this book, though. They just get to the final confrontation and they just explode their bodies because they never covered it.
You know what? I know we were talking about the ska. And I was also thinking about, like, you know, I think part of what is happening is to, like, what if, like, a class of people really had been brutally oppressed constantly and consistently for 1,000 years? Like, that would sort of result in this sort of thing. And I think, I don't want this to get to be spoily. I think there's a fantasy explanation later on for why the ska are like this.
They've been, like, magically tricked or, like, magically oppressed.
I think so. And I think that I think not that I want to spoil anything. I think that's true. I should look that up. But
That's you know, I don't think that's great either, but I mean that's better than just the slaves are happy here.
right. And again, I think that's where it comes off as like, oh, is this author trying to be morally gray, or is just like morally ignorant about the implications of this?
Yeah, what's that called? It's called Harlow's Harcum. It's not Occam's. It's Harlow's
it a thing?
razor or whatever. Yeah, it's like writing a. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna look it up.
I think that's a tricky thing to do in fantasy. Like, you're trying to be immersive, but you're also trying to like flag that, oh, that it may not be what it seems, and so it is tricky.
Hanlon's razor. Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity.
Right. Or by fantasy point of view.
Yes, no fantasy point of view for the ska. Which is, if I'm writing a book, the main character is a ska worker, you know, like is a slave. It's not a thief. It's one of these people. It's just weird to me that that's not what's going on. And this is also where we meet Sazed.
Yep, Sazed. And he is a terraceman, and he has long old earlobes.
Yes, he does. He's got big earlobes, and he is uncomfortably, I think, for now, still, without the context of the rest of the book, excited to be a servant to white characters. Maybe not explicitly white characters, but certainly they're not described as being any other skin color, and their names are pretty generic fantasy names, and Sazed is the only one whose accent is described. So I don't think it's crazy for me to assume that Sazed is not white.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
And I think that's weird. And I also, I Googled that. Turns out, nobody is posting on Reddit about that stuff. They just love Sazed. And I was like, what the... how did that not strike anybody as weird that he loves being a servant? Like, his race of people love being servants.
Well, I think this is another thing, too. I just Googled a quick thing about the ska and all that stuff, where I think this is the society the Lord Ruler has created through sheer force of will and pain and torture. I think that's part of it too, where like he's made all the terracemen be servants, or else if you're not servanty enough, I'm gonna kill you. And I think that's part of it too, where like the ska is like, if you're not subservient, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah and you know, I'm not saying that, you know, if it seems like Sazed is a not under the thumb of the Lord Ruler anymore, and is like part of the rebellion, and if he as a person finds joy in serving other people, then that's awesome. It's just the book really makes it seem like his race of people, his fantasy race of people. I don't know if he's a different fantasy race, but
I think he is.
Oh, he is? Okay. He's, you know, that fantasy race of people is like another servant class. Was just weird to me, man. I wouldn't have done that, but
I mean, I will say, just keep reading.
Yeah, which, you know, I'm excited about. I'm excited to learn. This is the part of the book where I was into it, because characters stop talking to the reader like I'm a fucking idiot and just start to have. In fact, the characters are about to have a conversation where Vin is going to ruin it with her thoughts, and they just don't let her into the room. I was like, yes, like, thank God. I don't even want to hear it. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I'd be super interested to hear your thoughts after we read the next section.
Yeah, me too.
And that's the whole prologue and part 1 of the book. Do you have any other things you want to say? I feel like we've sort of touched on all my notes that I've had.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about everything. I have a million little nitpick notes, but none of that's just really just for me. Like, the word smidgen is in this book a couple times, which made me giggle. And people are always whipping things out. That's something I've noticed. It's always like he whipped his sword out. He whipped the pouch out. I'm just waiting for the one time somebody whips their something else out. Somebody. Oh, here's the thing. Nobody has any feeling romantic. Nobody is a human being in this book. Nobody loves. Nobody feels anything. At least so far. I
feel like Kelsier loves his brother.
That's true, I guess. They just had a very confrontational
that's true.
Conversation, but no love, because, Danylo, when you love somebody, they can and will betray you. So you can't love. I want to say this. I said before that I want Kelsier to be the bad guy. I'd also be okay with Vin becoming the bad guy.
Okay.
Or like a bad person.
All right.
I think her life might lead her to use her magic not join the Lord Ruler, but like do a big genocide and think it's like good, but maybe it wasn't super awesome in retrospect kind of genocide. Like one of those classic genocides. One of those
classic, it didn't look really good in retrospect genocides.
yeah, you get it. We all get it.
Do you have any other predictions?
Oh, I think one of these, a named character will die before the end of the first book.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't think one of the crew, but I mean like a Lord Renew or like a Ulef, like one of these thieves. Somebody's gonna die.
Ulef?
No, Ulef is the only person. Ulef is the only person that Vin is friends with, and guess what Ulef does?
Betrays he's the funny accent. Oh no, that's that guy.
Yeah, he
Spook
betrays.
Has the funny accent.
Who? There's a guy named Spook.
Yeah, he's a Clubs's. Don't look anything up about it. He's Clubs's like nephew.
Yeah. That's
who was like a crush on Vin.
Yeah, he was a weird guy. I didn't know what's going on with him. I'm excited to learn. Sanderson. Oh, I guess full disclosure for listeners, I have read The Way of Kings. That's the only other Brando Sando thing I've experienced, and he loves a weirdo with a silly accent. Boy, I tell you what.
Oh yes, he does.
Well, great. I am looking forward to. When I started this, I could not believe we were reading the full book, and then when we got to the end of part 1, I was actually kind of upset I had to stop reading.
It definitely hits its stride, and especially in the other books once stuff gets moving.
And I know it sounds like I hate it. I definitely don't think this is a bad book by any stretch of the imagination. I just maybe don't think it's for me, which is fine. But I think it might be getting to be for me. So we'll see.
I'll say I like this book. I really liked it the first time I read it, and rereading it, I also like it. But I also like, especially the part we just read, is very like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
Can we move on to the other stuff?
It's really vindicating, Vin. What if that's her real name? Her name is Vindicating. That'd be awesome.
Her name's Vindication.
Yeah. Holy shit. Her first name Vin, last name Dication. That'd be awesome. I'm excited to see why people love it. Because even though I'm starting to enjoy it, I see no way I'm going to be loving this by the end. But we'll see. So I'm excited. I wonder if this book will convert me into the Sanderson pipeline.
Cool. Next time we'll be reading part 2 and part 3 of Mistborn: The Final Empire. And I don't know about you, but I'll be guzzling down some medals just to see if maybe...
Yeah, just to see if it works.
I'm Mistborn.
Well, I've been eating a lot of copper wiring I found in SUVs people have left parked and unlocked. So we'll see if I can fly and do cringy dialogue now. I think that'd be awesome.